Wow, this chapter of My Hero Academia was really something else. I mean, it was really and truly just filled to the brim with so many interesting characters who all had interesting quirks. And first up, we have Fat Gum, Sun Eater, and Tokoyami. Now, Sun Eater is for sure one of my favorite characters in the series, and the only reason he isn't even higher on my list is really just because he only has so many appearances thus far. But every time he pulls up, and does it like this, he rises up because man, these chimera forms are so damn cool. So from what I can tell, it looks like he may have eaten some beef for the horns, noodles or roots for his arms, pineapples for spiked mace-like extremities, and finally, horse meat for his lower body. Now, of all these things, for most Westerners, the notion of horse consumption is a bit crazy, but believe it or not, it's not all that strange in Japan, so it makes sense. And it is with this centaur form that Sun Eater, in only a moment, took out all the villains guarding the bunker entrance our heroes intended to close up. And with that, we learned of Sun Eater's plans for the future, as he'll be one of Fat Gum's sidekicks in the coming year. And I'm honestly so happy for him, the fact that he'll be able to call himself a pro hero after all these years of working hard, that's amazing. Hopefully over the course of being a sidekick he can get over his, stage fright. But we'll see. From there, we have our guy Tokoyami putting in work. The degree to which he is capable of controlling Dark Shadow now has clearly improved dramatically. Dark Shadow Ragnarok goes way too hard. As I'm sure even more people now know, on account of things like God of War or the Thor movie, Ragnarok was pretty much the end of days in Norse mythology, where prominent gods like Odin, Thor, and Loki would all fall. Which could make the naming of this super move a bit of foreshadowing, because as the old guard falls, young faces like that of Tokoyami will need to step up to the plate. Now, Redestro attempted to repel this attack, but unfortunately for him, because of his injuries courtesy of his fight with Shigaraki, his legs aren't entirely reliable, with them being prosthetics and all. And because of this, he can't hold Dark Shadow back, and they broke. And so Tokoyami successfully plugged up the hole in a matter of seconds as well. And also thanks to Dark Shadow, we now know the location of the monstrosity known as Gigantomachia, who looks to be loyal to a fault. Like a good dog, Machia refuses to move unless instructed as such, and with Shigaraki's absence, there is also the absence of command, which is a relief to an extent, but also quite terrifying and only furthers the notion that all hell will break loose when Shigaraki breaks loose of his chains. But with that, our heroes then decided to move back to the rear guard, but not before Tokoyami questioned the origins of such detailed intel, which of course brought up the subject of HAWKS. And in thinking of his master, Tokoyami subsequently considered his own growth and improvements and looked forward to seeing HAWKS again. But unfortunately for him, that may be a tall order when keeping in mind what we got with the remainder of this chapter. HAWKS is just way too nice with it. He is over here just mopping the floor with Twice's clones, who couldn't replicate fast enough to keep up with the overwhelming speed of HAWKS. Now, HAWKS is about the business. He doesn't want to fight Twice, sure, but hey, business is business. And he even gives the guy a final opportunity in the form of what looks to be a recorder, as in snitching and confessing to his crimes, I presume. But Twice wasn't feeling it at all and continued his futile attempts. And HAWKS even went as far as to say that the reason he goes so fast is because villains who don't know how to give up are the most troublesome of all, and only get worse the longer you let them be. Which is a sentiment we've seen so many times across the series, that a villain with powerful resolve and ideals will always be of the utmost concern. And at this point, HAWKS has had enough. He's had enough and he's ready to go for the kill. And because of this and everything else in mind, Twice yet again brought heroism into question. And I think it would be appropriate for us to do the same, because HAWKS is to me a transitional hero. He is doing what is necessary right now because of the current situation of the world and the way that heroism is going, but it really and truly shouldn't be this way. I mean, even Endeavor who abuses his family and such, condemns this sort of heroism where you would actually lead to fatality, where you would kill the villain rather than go for any other means of suppression. And with that in mind, thinking of how HAWKS actually does look up to Endeavor and has since he was a child, and along with the accompanying visuals of this chapter, I'm getting major like Robin vibes from HAWKS in comparison to Endeavor's Batman. Part of me does feel like I'm giving Endeavor too much credit by calling him Batman, but if All Might was Superman, you know, it's kind of trickling in. I love to see these references and these inspirations play into Horikoshi's work, especially when they're given nuance and new ways in which they can operate, I suppose. But yeah, HAWKS is a transitional hero. He is one that I can't see thriving in the future in what will then be the new normal. He's like an Itachi. He does things for his people, but at the end, he may be an unsung hero who, you know, sacrificed and did everything, gave his life for this, but hey, you know, you don't get all the credit. And I think if nothing else, that with the end of the series, humanity will need to, at the very least, redefine heroism, which, to a certain extent, may be considered the destruction of hero society as we know it, but also lead to its reconstruction and reconfiguring. But even with HAWKS looming over him, all Twice could think about was the happiness of his friends, a message HAWKS volunteered to send to the League as he somewhat punctured the face of Twice. But before he could finish, an inferno would interrupt. Dabi has entered the chat. He scorched the room and probably got rid of HAWKS' feathers in the process, and then stomped on the face of HAWKS as he let out a massive flame from it. And that's what Horikoshi decided to leave us with as we scratch at ourselves waiting for the next one on some Shigaraki shit. This chapter took my Tokoyami and Sun Eater high and turned it all into concern and fear for HAWKS and his face. I mean, we're talking point blank range here, so I really want to know what's about to happen. And as much as it sucks to see HAWKS get bodied, it's about time. Not only in this individual case, but also when it comes to the heroes in general. They've been too lit in this arc, and we need to reestablish a bit of equilibrium in this war. And it looks like Dabi's playing his part. And for the umpteenth time, personally, I don't entirely care for the character of Dabi, and this sort of cheap shot isn't exactly something that I would applaud, but it is what it is, and he seems like he has the upper hand right now. For me, Dabi has a cool design and a cool quirk minus his drawbacks, but I guess the drawbacks are kind of appealing to an extent visually. But he hasn't done much. Like when it came to the high-end Nomu and unleashing Hood, sure, I guess he let Hood out of the cage, but he didn't make Hood, that wasn't his concoction, and he kind of just tried to clean up after and didn't get the chance to do that and backed out from a whole fight there. And when it came to the fight against the Metal Liberation Army, he didn't even take down the Iceman. He didn't even do that. All these other characters, Twice had his big moment, Toga had her big moment, Shigaraki had his big moment, and Dabi was just, you know, just twiddling his thumbs. He was trying, but it was kind of lame. So hopefully this is the time where we get some intrigue for Dabi, where I will dramatically shift my opinion on this guy and be super stoked to see him every time he appears. That is what I'm hoping for. Hopefully we get that. If not, oh well. But hey, it is what it is once again. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this chapter and our coverage of it, because of course we do this every week along with a bunch of other amazing videos. I hope we get to see a continuation of this fight immediately, and it isn't something where we switch off to the next battlefield and see Deku and such, which isn't bad. I mean, I do want to see Deku and see if he's improved and is able to use float now, but right now it's about Dabi time. I want to know if HAWKS is alright. Like, is he charred in the face now? Is the pretty boy gone? Is he just gonna be terribly burned and such? Who knows? Go ahead and leave me your predictions on that in the comments as well. And be sure to subscribe to the channel, because when it comes to bringing you some of the best My Hero Academia content on the platform, Plot Armor has you covered. As always, I am Slice of Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.